if I get hungry or not.
All right, well, let's roll.
Well, you sounded really robotic there. You were like, everybody start multi-track. Watch out, it's a Jedi.
David, you got the
Yeah.
orange.
Yes, I do. You want me to do it with this voice?
All right, count me in, Greg.
Okay, Greg, that's cool.
You're listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast, where we discuss everything iRacing in a casual setting. Enjoy.
Welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I'm your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer, where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, David Hall.
Yo.
Hey, Greg Hectus. Justin Pearson.
What's up, friends? I'm glad to be back.
Welcome. And Mackenzie Stevens.
Hey, how's it going?
The NASCAR Coke Series visits Worldwide Tech Raceway, and it delivers one of the closest finishes in series history. We'll answer the question of whether you should race with Jim or Aussie Greg, and we'll look at some new VR headset options.
And remember, you can follow along with us on your PC or mobile device in real time as you listen to the show and see for yourself all the great topics and products that we will discuss by visiting iRacersLounge.com and selecting show notes. We hope to see you there. All right, we're going to kick up the topics today with the Truck Demolition Derby video. And this is a post on iRacing's Instagram official of just carnage after carnage after carnage of the new truck damage model.
I love seeing the body parts fly. Like the whole nose comes off, and if you can hit it hard enough.
Didn't that happen to you
Pretty cool to have it.
in the next gen, Greg? Didn't you pop the nose off in one of your qualifying runs at Sonoma?
Yeah, I hit the tires really hard, and it wrecked the whole front came off, the whole clip and everything came off. So obviously it's gonna peak its way into, because this is the newer damage model, isn't it, Mike? Like, it's a newer version of what they're doing with the damage model.
Yeah, and they're constantly tweaking it right now to kind of fine tune it, is the way I read it.
I just wonder, like, have you ever watched those? What is it called? NB something. There's a like really popular crash damage a game out there. I can't think of the name of it now, but they have really realistic graphics for crash damage. I was wondering if we could ever get really good physics someday for that.
Well, I wouldn't say it's bad. I mean, I think it's pretty presentable. I mean, when you look at these videos, it's really coming around. Like you said, it's a newer damage model. I think they're at the point where they're just fine tuning it, but they're certainly putting it out on new cars as they're released, trying to, if that car is in a class, make sure the other cars have it, so the damage model is going to be throughout the system here before long.
And you're dealing with something that's dealing with so much of a finer sense of physics where you have so many more data points. A computer can only calculate that so many times per car. So there's a difference between simulating that for one car and simulating that for 30 cars.
Yeah, and Mike, you were saying like adding it to every car, like it's kind of like, we're gonna have every car in the sim by the time that we keep up doing these updates. We're gonna have every car is gonna come with the damage model now, and then they update the ones that don't, and then they also do the AI that they don't have, topped up, so everything will be caught up eventually someday.
The Trucks is one of the most popular series as well in the service, especially on the oval side. So it's good to see.
So would you say the trucks would be on the oval side or the popular one? So would it compare to, would it be IMSA on the roadside, or would there be an open wheel a little more popular?
No,
They're both. It's C class, just like IMSA. Well, IMSA's B class now, but yeah, they both get really huge numbers, especially at a popular track like Watkins Glen this week. I'm seeing 200, 300 people every
I think
2 hours.
yeah, it was 350 or something like that last night.
Now, question. I've been gone for a couple weeks. Now, I see like in this video a front clip laying on the track. Now, if I hit it, would it affect my car?
So far, when I have hit them, it has not affected me, so I'm unsure. People say it's supposed to, but I have run over a front clip and it didn't hurt my car. But that was in the next gen, which is a beast anyway.
I'm unsure. I want to almost say no, because I would really like it where we're at Dover, some lap, Z hits the wall, he breaks a brake rotor, and we got a piece of a brake rotor down in the groove at Dover, and you run over it, and you can feel running over it, like the whole car is upset, and then it can't steer, and then you're in the wall.
And it's really not that common in real life for the cars to run over, like they run the debris over and puncture a tire, but running over a bumper cover, it doesn't happen very often, and if it did, it kind of would just get knocked off the car and go past it, right?
Yeah, there's a big mass differential there.
It would be nicer, it'd be more if there was like a puncture possibility, but obviously that's even more of a programming nightmare.
Well, it's definitely nice to see the damage model in the trucks. That kind of completes the NASCAR suite. Does Nationwide have, or Xfinity have it? The new damage model?
I haven't been in an Xfinity race in forever.
Same. When I was in, I think it was actually still called Bush.
See, which is funny. We always talk about we want the cars to be like handle harder and everything. None of us ever go and run the car that handles probably the hardest of all of them.
Well, that's because I still want to run the top car. That's
Fair
just
enough.
what it to be. But anyway, it's really neat to see. Obviously, it's still kind of sort of week one, and there's still a few more videos highlighting things that iRacing has put out. And Greg West kind of showed us how to properly pronounce Ligier. If you watch the video, did you give this one a watch, Mackenzie?
I did quickly. So it's showing the Ligier, the JSP 320. They just show a few clips of it driving around. I can't remember what the track's called now. The one that they brought out the new landscape model for there.
Willows?
Willow Springs.
Yeah, I was drawing a blank. I don't know why. So basically they're saying it's got quite a bit of horsepower and it's light and it handles really well.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you see the real Le Mans race with the Garage 56 car, how much bigger it is than the other cars. I mean, this thing only weighs 900 kilos, I think, is what he said.
Yeah, that's what it said. And it has like 650 horsepower, I think.
It was in the fours.
It
Was the one that was 650.
Yeah, Cadillac 650. This car, David, obviously me and you have been in the LMP2 cars a lot. I just looking at it, I feel it's just the same kind of feeling as an LMP2 car. Like it brings off the whole same vibe to me.
Well, yeah, that's why they call it LMP3.
But I just no, but I'm just saying like it the model isn't any different looking to me.
You're sitting in the right instead of the left.
Yeah, but I just look at the car. It just looks exactly like. I appreciate the candor there. I realize what class it was. I was saying I don't. It's kind of like, oh look, they brought out the new stock car in the Ford, Toyota, and Chevy version.
Right. Yeah, I can't tell them apart really when you look at them on track.
They do sound very different.
Yeah,
Why when that video came out, I wasn't sure if it was the Caddy or this, because the LMP3 has that deep roar engine as well.
you know the caddy when you fire it up
Well, what we're talking about, the Caddy is a naturally aspirated engine, um, and yeah, it's a beast.
with a hybrid element to it.
That's a really light car. You said 900 kilos. That's 1,900 pounds. That's light.
Yeah. Most of the sports cars are half the weight of the stock cars. All right, Justin, we've got some iRacing sponsor giveaways.
Yeah, iRacing put a post out here, I see. And it says, we're excited to announce McConey Setup Shops is officially sponsored NASCAR Class C McConey Shops Fixed. And it gives you directions on how to enter.
Wow. Nice prizes. Sim Magic Alpha Mini Bundle, an $850 value, which comes with the rim. Second is the Sim Magic 2-pedal set. And then finally, third, Sim Magic Sequential Gear Shifter.
Now, does this run the sponsor again? Is that how you enter?
Yeah, you have to go into iRacing Paint in the beta UI and set the sponsors on the quarter panel and stuff.
Now on the Caddy, which I just bought, it will not let you add sponsors, or it wouldn't. For some reason, for me, it said sponsors not allowed when I was trying to edit it. But then, Greg, I noticed you had a sponsor on your little.
Yeah, I defaulted with what Ryko and SimCube.
Huh. I wonder why I saw that.
Want that butt kicker.
You can also, there's a lot of other contests going on. You can win a set of Falcon tires, like real tires for your car. There's a Thruster direct drive T818 up for grabs in the Ricmotech Ringmeister series and the iRacing Clio Cup. Pure Driving School and DOF Reality Motion Sim M2. How about that?
What series
So-
is that?
Yeah, just do it. You know, there's so many of them. I mean, I keep going down the list, and because there's so many, it's almost like you should go in there and just set all these sponsors on all the cars that you normally run.
Well, it's got
And
to be
that
in the
way, if you
primary
end up in a
position.
race, yeah,
So you kind of have to pick one, unless you want to run different ones in different cars. But you have to run it 10 times in the car.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess you would do it on the cars that you plan on running the season with.
Well, there's a whole bunch of different class, like series too, right? So you'd have different paint jobs per series.
Yeah,
That
there's
is-
even a SimLabs chassis up for grabs.
Would NIS count as one of these official races?
Yeah, that's an official race. But you should also run an A Open to get ready for NIS.
It is
Yeah.
official, but if you read this, NIS is not eligible for any of these prizes.
Does it say that somewhere down at the bottom?
Oh, sorry, David. If you look, it's very specific. Like, for example, to win the SimLabs, you have to run the SimLab Production Car Challenge in season 3 specifically. Okay, so I can't win a SimLab P1X if I'm running NIS. There's no prizes here listed that say NIS.
Yeah, but like so you could still do. It's just basically you got to compete for that whole season. It's kind of so this kind of like if you're trying to accumulate iRacing points to get the iRacing dollars, you just kind of compete in that series all season and just have a paint set up that way for that season.
See, I don't run very many 12-week seasons, but if you do, most iRacers do. I mean, you really need to go through your paints and just kind of make sure you got all the right sponsors on, so you're eligible because somebody's going to win it.
Now I just noticed there's a few of them here that say season 2. So is that just a typo, do you guys think, or are those just from last season? Like the butt kicker and the sim magic both say from season 2.
I'd guess it's a typo, copy paste.
All right. Before I throw in my opinion, let's hear what Mike has to say about the Coke series at Gateway.
Well, I watched this race. I didn't take notes, but it was a good race. I mean, coming down to the end, Garrett Maines, who's we've seen, flashes of brilliance and speed throughout this season, but he hasn't closed the deal. He ended up leading with old tires while everyone behind him had 2 and 4 tires. And we're down to the end of the race and the caution keeps coming out and it goes green and he gets great restarts on these old tires. No joke, but and he gets away, but the caution comes out just as somebody's about to pass him on better tires, but he maintains the lead. They only end up with 1 green white checker. And so at some point Garrett Maines gets overtaken, and as he does, he takes the field with him, is I guess the way to say it. I mean, he wrecks everybody, and that's what sets up the final showdown there. But
Well, I don't
Jordan,
think
yeah,
I don't think he got overtaken. I think he got dumped. It sure looked like a dump to
that
me.
could have been what it was. I mean, everybody's coming, new tires, nobody's giving an inch. You're right. I mean, we kind of knew that was going to happen, when you have a guy with old tires, on a late restart. But that was the classic setup, is what it was. But Jordi Lopez, who had 2 tires, I believe, and he said he took 2 to get some track position, and it worked because he was up there close. And I think Mike Conti had 4. And as they were coming around on that final, green-white checker, Conti was coming. He got to him. He hit him a little bit to get him up where he could get in beside him. And then he just kind of rode him up, and they locked horns as the cars got stuck together. And it was kind of a, classic Ricky Craven and Kurt Busch, bouncing off each other, locked together at Martinsville kind of finish, where they go down to the checker and Jordi Lopez, gets his first win in the Coca-Cola 3 by a couple inches over Mike Conti, who was coming. But Mike Conti, he tried hard. He roughed him up, but not like dumped him. But he still ended up second, and a great win for Jordi.
Now rewind to the last lap. Do you think that pass he made on that 12 car on 1 and 2 was clean?
No.
Exactly. That's what I thought.
I get the problem is and David, I think you're probably going to agree with this too. And I think your opinion, the way you were talking about, is it's not. He drove through that corner like there wasn't a car there. He entered. He ended up just driving like he had 4 tires, like there wasn't anything in him, like he was trying to win it. He kind of just kept going straight instead of turning. Use the 4 tires to your advantage. He didn't use this. He didn't take advantage of having 4 tires. He took advantage of a slower car. This is exactly what we would actually see in NASCAR too. They would do the exact same thing. So I don't know how we're going to criticize it all we want, but this is exactly what would happen if this scenario was, playing out at Gateway with tires mean something like that. in NASCAR too.
Watching the replay, Jordy Lopez actually was the one that got Garrett Maines out of shape by hitting him in the back corner. But he was a much slower car at that point in the race. And what do you think about Mike Conti's move, though, trying to win it? Was that, appropriate, effective?
I thought that was textbook.
It was textbook, wasn't it? I mean, that's how NASCAR racing should be done to win a race, right, Justin?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, all they were doing is leaning on each other. They weren't wrecking each other. I thought it was awesome.
Well, like I said, Mike Conti is a champ, and he proves it here by not dumping Jordy Lopez Jr., but just getting him up just enough so he can get in beside him. I mean, and that was the beauty of it. And then they were locked horns and so forth. But when Jordy overtook Garrett Maines, that was a dump. But I don't think he meant to dump him. It was just a much faster car and a much slower car, fighting for the same real estate.
And I'm not saying in that position, that race, I wouldn't do the same either.
I think the hardest part about it is you get from the turn one incident, you get it from the outside. I don't know. There wasn't any onboard footage of that shown, right? Of Jordy's going through that corner. But if you were on him, you just see him gas it up and keep going. Whereas if you see Conti in turn 3 and 4, Jordy's moving around and Conti's on and off the throttle trying to figure out where he's going to go. Then he starts going and he just puts the light bumper to him. He doesn't fully gas through him.
That's kind of my point. I mean, Conti could just drive through him. I mean, that and win the race, and he's got another win, on his resume. But he didn't do that. He raced him what I'll call NASCAR clean. It's not clean, but it's NASCAR clean in the fact that, this is how Martin Truex would win a race, or, somebody like that, like a Matt Kenseth.
I think netcode kind of screwed Conti's momentum up too there, where he couldn't get the win when they got locked together.
Well, and it's also like who was ahead when they did lock, because once they locked, the other car couldn't get ahead of the other one. I think they were locked. They were, yeah, and that was interesting. I mean, I don't think I've been locked to a car like that in quite some time. Like where we literally can't get off each other, or do you think the drivers were turning into each other? What do you think?
I bet you if you go on the onboards of both cars, one's going left and one's going right.
Yeah. Let's run this guy to the wall and take it, right? Well, I'm going to jump to the next one, David. Speaking of Michael Conti, he has announced that he will be driving a small block super modified car at Oswego Speedway in July. Thanks to Martin Tech, who makes computers. He's a big sponsor out there right now for Michael Conti, and he's arranged some kind of test, or I don't know if it's a race, but it looks like it might be a test. So he did talk about that in his post-race interview. Excited to get some real race car track time. One other note on the Coke race I'll throw out was Colin Bowden before the race tweeted, "I've been wrecked out of 7 or 8 of these things by somebody, and the next effer that wrecks me, I'm gonna wreck them," or something like that. Now he did this pre-race. He stated that, and then sure enough, during the Coke race, in the middle of the race somewhere, as things were cycling, he took the lead at one point, and then he started fading, and a newer car was coming up on new tires, and he was on old tires. The new car just barely touched him, got him loose where he was he was about to wreck, and it looked like he was going to save it, and then he just turned hard left into this guy that was going by him, and he just dumped him. And sure enough, Evan Pasoko and Blake McCandless on the call They were tongue in cheek about the whole thing. It was obvious that he dumped him.
Well, when you hit the wall, you can't really control the car.
Right. That's what they were
Sides off of it.
trying to get that. What would be the proper reaction that's not Denny Hamlin going on?
Anybody put the Motec data?
I talked about that last week. We need our own data.
You can get your own data. You can get your own telemetry. Just can't get anybody else's unless you're like teammates
Pretty neat for the
on
Coke
BRS.
series.
Yeah, well, then somebody at the top would have access to every one of their setups. Because it comes in the telemetry. The setup comes in the telemetry.
Oh, iRacing has all that stuff, right? They can get it. And I think that's how they check for cheating and stuff too, don't they? Is they watch that kind of stuff?
Well, it would be just things that they could tell from it. I don't know if they would use the data if someone's if someone's pointing out me. I don't know how their cheating works. Is somebody report something to find it, or do they?
Yeah.
Or do they just are they just looking for stuff?
I would hope both. I would hope they proactively are looking, and I hope that they respond to accusations as well. Which we'll talk about cheating a little bit in a story from after this one. So, David.
But it's not the next story, because next up is a season 3 build review, right? And it's just a video showing all the new features. Each time they kind of throw up a bullet list and then show some clips from all the different tracks and cars, including the dirt cars with the dirt overhaul. It's about 4 minutes long.
What a great way to digest the build release notes in a short 4 minutes. I can't tell you guys how hard it is for us as a group to try to tell you guys verbally what the build notes are. We're presented with this huge wall of text, and that's all it is. And to try to, verbalize that in a quick, efficient manner is very difficult. So I love these videos because you don't have to think about it. You just watch the video, you read what you see on screen, and by the end of the 4 minutes, you have a pretty good idea of what's going on.
I want to give the figure 8 a try.
That looks fun. And what a great reminder that that's there. Yeah, I mean, let's do it. With the jump, too.
All right, and we're still talking season 3 release notes, sort of. We have a patch out, Mike. Patch 1, in fact. I had to update yesterday, I think.
Yeah, and a rare security update. We rarely see these. It says in season 3, release on June 6th, changes were rolled out to improve the security of the iRacing update processing. We would like to thank Stephen Sharkadoon for the responsible disclosure of the reported issues. As a reminder, security issues can be reported to at infosec@iracing.com. So they don't say what it was, but it must have been big enough that they had to work on it, and they put it in the release notes.
Yeah, and this Stephen fella must be like basically a white knight hacker, somebody who's basically trying to protect a service he cares about instead of pulling all the shenanigans.
I kind of assumed, David, that he's one of us. He's an iRacer based on the parentheses SS23, which might be a short for his, he has a 23 after his username, maybe? I don't know.
They did some more stuff for the optimization, including fixing an issue that was happening with 12th and 13th generation Intel CPUs.
Yeah, this is interesting because there were a lot of people doing stuttering issues in the forums, and this is a response to that.
This is a little confusing, though, because it says Intel CPU and then it lists AMD
Yeah, I saw
chipsets.
that too. I had to read that like 3 times, but it doesn't make sense. I think they mean both of them. But what it is there's a thing called inky worker threads, and they've changed it where you can adjust how many of these threads happen. And I was reading the forum post to understand what this is, but basically it's a way to, instead of saying like audio on this particular thread and video on this thread and that kind of thing, this system will delegate out to whatever core is available, and it's kind of like a delegation system for workload and something like that. But it was causing certain people to do stutters, and the idea is this fixes it. You can go into the core INI and adjust how many of these threads you can have max if you're still having problems. So if you have stutters, you really need to read into this and read that forum post.
Looking on down into the cars, it looks like they've adjusted the tape parameters for the trucks and Xfin cars. They didn't adjust those for the next gen cars because they don't use tape. A lot of
And the
setup
new cars
changes.
got some changes and stuff. Yeah.
They worked on the limiter sound on the Caddy and some other issues that were minor issues that looked like were happening with it with the display.
Yeah, I would have loved to see this one, David. Under tracks, Daytona International Speedway fixed an issue where airplanes would come in for a landing on the airstrip at supersonic speeds.
That wouldn't work so well. They would run out of runway really fast. I can tell you because I've been playing a flight sim. The Su-25 comes in at about 300 knots to land is what you got to be at, or it may be kilometers on there. On there, it's a Russian plane, and it says 300. So a lot of minor fixes, but patch 1 already out. And this was not a very buggy release, was it? We've had some releases where they had to come out and really fix something quick.
It's been good.
They've been progressively getting better with nothing where they have to take anything back anymore, right? They're just quick fixes. They're not taking things back after bringing them in.
I think the only time that really happened was when they brought the damage model out.
And anything attached to a tire.
All right, well, Greg, how about you spot some spotter options for us?
Yeah, and we really noticed this last week. At Sonoma, I was noticing at least. I kind of like it, and I don't like. I think it'll be good on the or the road side. I don't know about the old side, but was it Owen Pear? I don't know how to spell it or how to pronounce his last name, but he posted in the forums. Anyone considering firing Jim and giving the job back to Aussie Greg? Basically, he's talking about getting rid of crew chief app and kind of just resorting back to having the iRacing spotter crew chief on there, right? That he doesn't. It's getting so much better that the crew chief third party app is felt that it's not needed, I guess.
And he's wrong because it's not as complete as crew chief.
And I think it's all preference based too, right?
Well, does it tell you when there's a wreck in turn 7 when you're coming up on turn 7?
That's still the one problem with the spotter pack on iRacing is it's just car to your right, car to your left, or kind of like it doesn't give you as much information up the track.
Hence, it's not complete.
Yeah.
Why doesn't iRacing just hire this guy who made crew chief and integrate his whatever into the system, just like they've done with other things? I mean, they should just recreate everything crew chief does because they do it so well. I think it's a great question to pose because there have been spotter improvements, but like David said, did they cover everything? Absolutely not. And so with me, the more information is better. I'd rather have too much than not enough. And so if you have separate volume controls like I do for everything, then you can mix this in where it's a real soft and you just barely hear it in the background. And it's not really invasive when you do that.
I still just put it on low chattiness and rely mostly on the crew chief.
Well, I mean, that's the only thing you can really hear when you're racing, isn't it, David? You can't really chat back to anything. Not for at least another 5 months, right? uh, you were saying though, Mike. They are stealing some of crew chief's ideas. Like they obviously implemented the auto refilling or helping with guesstimating what you need in the tank.
Well, it's not exclusive to crew chief. There's a lot of apps that kind of do the same thing. But yeah, for sure. I mean, I still like it because like I said, the more information, the better. As long as I keep the volume down on it and it's not too invasive, I'm okay with it. Even on oval, I'm hearing car inside from two different spotters, but I have the crew chief app set as a female spotter, and I have a female voice, while the I have Aussie Greg doing the iRacing spotting, and so just the different voices you hear in the headset saying different things, or sometimes the same thing at the same time. It's not a big deal.
It's funny you say it's not a big deal because this next post, these two guys sitting in this official's garage, they don't really think this wreck is a big idea either, do they, Justin?
No, David. They're just chill as a cucumber while all this chaos is happening. I mean, these cars are just running 100 mile an hour and hitting this wall, and they're just arms crossed, just chilling.
It's like a damage model test, or they all try to wreck it at the same time in the same spot.
I'm guessing all those cars have John Cena paint jobs.
I like the third one that comes into the frame. It's airborne and it goes straight into the fence. Like it's not even on the ground.
Yeah, you can tell it's kind of staged because nobody's actually making the turn at all.
That reminds me of what Le Mans was at, like first 3 hours on the weekend where they weren't making when the rain hit.
Now, as iRacing matures and they start enhancing, would we ever want to see these course workers or track workers? Oh, there's been a wreck. They grab a fire extinguisher. They scurry out next to the car, get the guy out or whatever, and they're blowing, the fire extinguisher.
They can't do that until they put in the Ross Chastain feature.
Well, remember, you can't ever have fire either.
Well, and I think Mike, you're if you're gonna have this, then we're gonna have to have victory lane celebrations, right? Where you can get out of the car, get interviewed at the end of the race, right?
Yeah, like it. That's what Donnie was asking for.
All right, Greg, you've gotten to drive it at least once. Tell us about the Caddy.
It's such a nice car. I was enjoying it last night. It took me a little bit to get used to it a bit. As I posted my video, I kind of had a tanglement with a GT3 car, but no, it's definitely got a lot of power. It does shove the nose a lot. You can feel that the nose isn't sometimes doing what you want it to do, but it is a nice alternative to the BMW on the IMSA side, and I really, really enjoyed racing it. And probably enjoy it for the rest of the season on the roadside too. I wanted to get back into racing some of the IMSA series, so this will be definitely my choice of car in that. So
I enjoyed the verbal commentary during the video, telling me more about the car, specifically that it doesn't respond to rake changes like the others in the same class. Um, and it's something to do with the engine and the way that works or something, but it turns differently than the other ones. Like you said, it just responds differently as you're trying to turn it.
I just felt like the nose was not into the ground a lot on when you turn when you were turning in, and then like a typical kind of an American brand car, when you stomp the throttle, it kind of wants to, spin itself out if you're not careful with it.
All right, Mike, we've got to see this new track built as a fantasy track.
Well, I've never been a fan of the fantasy tracks in iRacing, but iRacing did read this tweet from NASCAR on NBC that said, "We asked Chat GPT to take turns from other NASCAR tracks and build a brand new course, and then we designed it." And it's called the Chat GPT Speedway. And if you get to the thread and you go to the second part of the thread, it says turn one is from Charlotte Motor Speedway. Turn two is the S's at Watkins Glen. Turn three is the Daytona Trioval. Turn four is the Martinsville Hairpin. Turn five is the Sonoma Carousel. Turn six is from Talladega Trioval. Turn seven is Dover, turn one and two together. Then turn eight is Chicago's turn 12. Then turn nine finally is from Homestead, turn three and four together.
Could you imagine finishing up after going through the flat corners of Chicago and going onto a bank corner at Homestead?
But this is just an insane track coming off of the Trioval of Daytona into Martinsville. Into a paperclip. I mean, yeah, I want to race this track.
Turn 5 through 8 looks full throttle just about.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, Jeff. That's like a oval centric, You come out of five, you go into this Talladega sweeping turn of six, and then Dover, one and two and seven.
Yeah, you won't be flat out. You won't be flat out in seven.
Well, the thing is the way it proceeds there, I believe it might be like Dover's a tight turn in real life. I don't think it's perceiving Dover the same way as it would be on actually used. It's kind of lengthened it.
So I imagine if I was a track developer at iRacing, and I might play along with this, and I would sit down at my track development software and then literally cut, copy, paste these corners from the various tracks into a new, track and build this thing and then sell it, or maybe give it to us for free like they did the iRacing Super Speedway. I think it'd be cool.
I don't think NASCAR has ever raced on a track where they go over top of, like they have a bridge that goes underneath the track and over top.
Oh yeah, see that.
I wonder if there would be a chance of getting air.
I want to see it. I want to see it. All right, Matt, we got one more topic before we jump into events. Tell us about this next one.
Yeah, this is a tweet by Drew Adamson. It's June 22nd. They're giving away free stuff. 3:30 p.m. It's C-Class Dirt Car Pro Late Model Fixed. Top three on the show are in for a surprise.
My wedding anniversary.
And he's got a little icon for cash. So I imagine they're giving away iRacing credits. This is that thing where they call it iRacing Happy Hour, where occasionally they do a proper broadcast of just like a regular fixed race from in the afternoon. And so that's what this is, and they're trying to get people to show up for it by offering some money. It also indicates that afterwards they're going to host a how-to on building an AI roster and hosting a race with your friends. Now this is all going down at twitch.tv/iRacing.
You know, you use the AI to practice for the race. You should just have a whole season you've had running.
I wish I had started a season at the beginning, but I didn't, David. And so each week I'm just picking single race, change the track, and I run. But here's the thing, I'm not running a race either, David. I'm running a few laps. Like, I grid up, I'll run 5, 10, 15 laps, maybe 20, and then I park it.
Shocker.
You
That's
really
a
should
Tuesday.
try to at least run one fuel stint.
I know, but it's just to shake down this, just make sure it feels right. I feel like I know what I'm doing. I'm in the right gear, that kind of thing. Everything works.
Till you get on lap 40 of a run. All right, Greg, pick up the first event. We've got the Race for More 2.4.
Yeah, so iRacing posted on their Twitter page. They're teaming up with Multiple Sclerosis Society for their third year in a row to host a multi-class team racing event for this charity. Hold on, let me bring it up here.
It's Le Mans.
So they're doing the 24 hours or 2.4 hours of Le Mans using, it looks like they're using the IMSA, no, sorry, scratch that. So they're using the BMW hybrid V8, the Cadillac, the new Cadillac, and then they call it GT1 series. They got the Aston Martin DB9, BBR9, and the Chevy Corvette, and then the Toyota GR86. When is this going on? It's going to be Thursday, August 3rd at 8 p.m. Eastern or midnight GMT.
You're gonna have
That's a mix of really fast and slow cars, isn't it?
really slow and really fast, like the slowest and the fastest.
I was just going to say, you're going to blow the doors off that Toyota GRT. That thing is going to be so slow down the straightaways by the end of it. I wonder what a lap time for the GR86 would be at Le Mans.
It says the broadcast split once again feature iRacing Executive Vice President Steve Myers, 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champion crew chief, and NASCAR Garage 56 project leader Chad Knaus, and the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion Nick Ottinger.
That's pretty sick, because I'm pretty sure they're going to talk about some other stuff on there with Chad and obviously having Nick on there too. But I would think maybe some of the Project 56 stuff might come up.
Well, last year and the first year, they released a lot of tidbits of content coming during this event. In fact, I think Steve Myers was saying, if the more people that put in money for the MS Society, the more I'm gonna spill the beans.
Here's a long shot. Do you think because they have Chad Knaus on there, do you think the the Garage 56 car is a possible just an addition to iRacing at some point, just to have?
I've seen people on Twitter this week actually call for it. We need this car in iRacing, even though it's never set to race again. Just to keep it, historically, because it's kind of been iconic over the last week or so, watching how NASCAR has come onto the global, racing scene, and people are very interested in that car, and to see it faster than the GT cars out there was pretty cool.
So it's also saying here, Mike, anyone that wants to get involved can visit the national mssociety.org. I'm guessing you can make donations there as well.
Yeah, you make a donation, you get involved, and run the race, and get involved in the fun. It looks like fun.
All right, this weekend also features one of the special events that's on the regular calendar, the iRacing VCO Watkins Glen 6 Hour. And just like the other events, they are going to go ahead and temporarily disable registration via the member site. So you'll only be able to go in through the UI during that time. We cover the details, but it's basically the IMSA cars. It's the 4 standard start times. It does feature the Cadillac in there. I didn't. I haven't seen if there's any balance of power yet. So I'll check that real quick. We don't have a hot link to the forum post, so there might be a balance of power for the some of the GT3 cars. But I know me and Tom are going to run this one in the on Saturday morning. It worked out he needed somebody to race with, so we're going to just pair up and knock her out. See if I can get this monkey off my back.
Very good. Podcast housekeeping notes. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform to make it easier for more listeners to find us. Mention the podcast to your fellow drivers so they don't miss out. We do appreciate it. Get involved in the Discord, and you'll see, hey, my new painting of my Gen 7 car. I have hang it up on the wall. If you're in the Discord, you would see it. And then don't forget our website, iRacersLounge.com, where we document literally with links everything we talk about. We're in regular rotation at the Performance Motorsports Network.
All right, it's time to talk fantasy. Our winner this time at Sonoma was Canadian. You want to pick up the rest, Justin?
Yeah. Yeah, David. Sorry, I lost a page here. But yeah, it looks like Canadian's number 1, Mason Racing, is second. Louder Racing is third. And yeah, it looks like I need to learn how to play fantasy. It seems like the same people are in the top 10 week in and week out. They must use analytics or something.
Yeah, they got me beat.
Yeah, Canadian has actually won the week and has taken over the point lead because I think last week Mason was at the top.
Yeah, the highest on our team was, let's see here, Tyler Williamson in 16th. Mackenzie, you're 18th.
Yeah, I would have did better if Tyler Reddick didn't get taken out.
And then Brian 22nd and Donnie Spiker 23rd. All right, and it's off week. I didn't even realize it. I was like getting ready to practice for NIS, and you guys are like, you're a little early.
John enjoyed the race because I actually really did. I liked the fact that it played out like the old school road races used to.
With the stage breaks gone, I mean, that really changed the perplexion, didn't it?
More of a toss-up.
They just don't have the ability to pass. It just the cars just don't lose any of that rear end grip. It's not hard enough for them to hammer the gas and lose grip. They almost, like they were talking on a lot of podcast weeks, every car loses the same amount of time in the run, and they're all running the same times, even though there is tire fall off. But there needs to be a way of punishing guys that don't know how to maintain tires.
Denny's podcast explained that very, very well. He went on about how hard it is to pass. Once you lose that air, you can't get no grip to get around the guy.
And they're all running the same speed, basically. But to Greg's point, we need a real soft tire that falls off like a second and a half or something.
Didn't seem like Truex had problems passing though.
Yeah, there was obviously something on that car that was just right. They hit every part of that where he was gaining time, and it worked. So I don't know what. I still think the solution is at some point they obviously got to change for most of the tracks is the gear ratio or the way they get the final gear to fix a lot of that problem for them to not be shifting to get back going. But that's still the fundamental thing that I think they lost their way with the fans was taking horsepower out of the cars. I love horsepower. That's just something that if I'm thinking the top series, I want the series to have the biggest motors and the best power.
Yep. Well, they did bring back some of it. They remember for a long time there, we were like drowning in tears with that low horsepower.
Can you imagine if they did stay that way?
Oh my God, what a mess!
These cars wouldn't even spin the back tires because they wouldn't have enough horsepower.
Then, if I remember right, too, on Denny's podcast, he talked about the tire. They were testing a New Hampshire tire, and he was really, really impressed. And he's thinking that NASCAR may bring it this year ahead of time.
You better bring it for Phoenix. Phoenix has been a crap.
Isn't the New Hampshire tire is supposed to debut at New Hampshire only, and he wanted it to be in multiple places, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah, all the 1 miles, right? Yeah. So Dale Jr. said something about Martin Truex Jr. where Martin can not go to the sim. He doesn't practice. He's out hunting and fishing, and then he flies in for the race, and he just jumps in the car and he lays it down and he gets it done. And it kind of reminded me of somebody. Oh yeah, somebody who never practices and just jumps in the car and performs. Oh yeah. Yeah, I like Martin Truex, but yeah, congrats to him. Next week, Nashville Super Speedway. I mean, who do you like there?
Larson.
I was gonna say Hendrick. The Hendrick 4 will be tough, and I think it's gonna be. I think that would be a Toyota track. It's still hard to pick any of the Fords, but I think it's gonna be Gibbs or Hendrick probably.
And what happened to Ross Chastain? Did he just fall off the face of the planet? I mean, we haven't talked. We used to talk about Ross Chastain all the time, and now I haven't heard from him in like 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, the going theory is he's been told to back it down.
Now, random thing. Does what's the team name? I just went blank. Ross's team.
2311?
No, Ross's team is Trackhouse.
Trackhouse. Now, does Trackhouse get their motors off of Hendrick?
No, but they do share information with all them. I want to say that Trackhouse is an ECR engine.
For some reason, I thought Hendrick had a play in the supplying of motors. That was a theory I heard.
Well, I hope Ross comes back to the way he used to drive. It was kind of fun to watch.
All right, it's time for some hardware software, sponsored by Metro Ford of Chicago. We're going to open it up with a video that Meta has announced, the Quest 3 VR headset. And I have not watched this video. Who has?
I got parts of it. $499. It's coming September 27th at Connect, which is some kind of conference, I think. So probably released in the fall. But yeah, it takes the Quest 2 and basically reimagines it, as they call it. It's 40% slimmer, uh, more comfortable, as they would call it, better, clarity. Uh, the hot, I get, what is it called? The hot spot or whatever. That's more wider.
It is heavier than the Quest 2, though, they said. And it also, I forget what they called it, but basically they have it where you can be looking through them, and then in the case on there, it almost had like a board game got put on the guy's like coffee table, and he could still see everything else in his house, but that was put into right there. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, like an AR, kind of like the Apple glasses, where it's got cameras on the front of it. So there's like 3 slots, and I think the outside ones are cameras, but that's where it does the AR stuff.
Yeah, on the old Rift, it had cameras, but you could basically only look outside or look at a game screen. You couldn't kind of do both.
I feel like the looking through is the thing that people are mostly wanting out of the VR now too. So like that you can be half in, half out, so you can still see what, or not necessarily just see what you're doing, but I think it's about for multitasking more than anything with VR now, I guess.
If you're just sketchy and you don't like, people walking up behind you and slap you upside the head or something.
See, I used to race in VR, and I'd all of a sudden either the dog would come in or the kids would all of a sudden come down, and someone's tugging on your shoulder, and you're like, "What the heck is that?"
I was a huge fan of the Quest 2. That's how I got into iRacing. That's about the cheapest way you can do it. I had a G27 and those goggles, and I had a blast for about 6 months, and then I started upgrading.
Now, does this one require a battery lifetime as well, just like the 2 did?
No, I didn't catch that.
Well, in the 2, I believe even if you left it plugged in, it would not charge fast enough on the USB to stay on 24/7, which made it
So,
really bad for long time racing.
so I have the Quest 2, and I found this cord. I think it was on Amazon that I actually found it, where it's the link cable, so it plugs into the headset and then plugs into the computer. But then it's also got like this separate little box built into it that you bring a USB cable and actually plug it into an outlet, so it charges it at the same time as you use it. And I haven't had any problems with it.
Yeah, but a box can put out more juice than any of the computer USBs, so that makes sense.
Yeah, because I did a lot of research before I actually went and bought one of those cables, and everybody said if you're going to do any type of extended racing to buy that or it won't last.
All right, Justin, pick up the next one. Give it a full send.
Yeah, Full Send Sims offers their turnkey custom built rigs for sale and rental. And they got a website here where it looks like it's pretty much you pay the price and you get a sim rig out the door.
Yeah. There's a lot of businesses cropping up like this where they build turnkey cockpits, rigs, everything's included from the computer to the monitors to the seat to the cockpit to the racing hardware. Everything's included for a price. And so we've talked about Podium One out of Nashville. Those guys are super busy. I mean, they're putting together rigs around the clock, 24/7, literally. This guy I found from Central Florida, he actually rents the sims as well. If you want a sim rental in Central Florida, you can rent them. But his big one is $23,570. He calls it the Pro Ultimate Rig. Yeah, there's a cheaper one called the Comp Rig at 16,000. Entry level 9,300.
The Pro Ultimate's got triples with the monitor on top. It's looks like a Fanatec base. It's got a keyboard tray. It's got WinSim. It's got button box. It's got seat belts, so it's definitely the
Okay.
whole pack.
It's a convenience buy, guys, and you're paying a premium to do it. You know, when I look at the entry rig at 9,300, for example, this is similar to a P1X, and it's actually a step down probably from a SimLab P1X. So let's say that's 900 bucks. Then he's got one monitor, one computer, one seat. He's got a probably a middle of the road pedal and steering wheel system. You can't really tell which one it is. But if you do the math, you know, it's probably about 5 or 6 thousand if you did it on your own, and they're charging 9,300. So there's you know, you're paying people to put it together. You're paying for it to be shipped. You know, you're paying for all that, so you don't have to do it.
So are we if we're talking about the entry rig, that's the Fanatec CSL pedal.
Right. So how much are we talking about if you added up all the parts on this rig? Probably fourth. I mean, the computer, I know a computer can be a lot. So I'm saying, you know, conservatively $4,000 or $5,000.
And isn't the worst thing too when you do something like this, like the computer parts? Like if you think of building a PC, the prices are always moving parts, so you kind of got to price it so that you don't hurt yourself in the long run.
Right. Well, you got to make money. It's a business too, you know. So you got to pay the people that put it together, um and so yeah, there's a market for this, obviously, and yeah, if you're interested, check these guys out.
Where this might be more useful is for somebody who's got some physical challenges and just can't really move around to put something like this together.
Or they're busy. They're an executive, you know, at work, and they work 80 hours, and they still want to do it. They just don't have time to do it. Hey, you know what? I have money. Let's just buy this, and I'll get it set up for when I am available. I'll be able to run it.
Not every one of us is actually also inclined at building things too, right? Or comfortable.
I'm not, but I can't afford to pay them to do it for me. Like for example, I've realized I've put this damn SimLab P1X together all wrong. You know, where I've had the left side go down an inch on me on the uprights, and because I didn't tighten it right, or I didn't use the right bolts, or who knows why.
Well, I just hope they pick the right shipping company because if they don't give it a full send, it wouldn't get to you.
Olsen Sims.
Probably have to press the right button then, David, to get it shipped right.
Man, it's not good if you press the wrong button and it suddenly changes your wheel into Xbox mode. It takes you out of a gateway race that you were actually having a good run. But that's not really what this next article is about. The question is, what does this button do? And I can pick this one up. I gave this one a quick watch because it's only 45 seconds. And it's a pro driver, Daniel Morad, giving a rundown of how he programs his buttons on his Formula Wheel. And that's basically what you do. You set it. Some of them are for push to talk. He has one for Discord, one for in game. Some of them are for changing volumes or muting the volume. Some of them are for changing menu options. And he even has one set on there that will clear penalties when he's in a hosted race, where you can just wipe out all the penalties. And that's pretty standard. You try to find everything you can to use all these buttons for, and that's really not enough that he has on that wheel without having a button box too.
That I like this because when I got my Formula Wheel, I had no idea what I wanted to map the buttons to, and you know which one would be better for this type. You know, for my brake bias, I want to have a certain type of button, and I didn't really know because I'm not a road guy. So I was searching on YouTube a lot, looking for how do people map their buttons, you know, on these wheels. Um, I think I ended up using the Cube Controls website based on the picture they had on their website of the wheel and how they had the labels set up. I ended up just matching that because I didn't really know which way to go with it. And so, yeah, if you're like me and you're not sure, this is a great watch for 45 seconds. You'll get some great ideas on some great uses of how to use your buttons that are actually going to be benefit you during the race.
I just think it's funny because you've been racing what 10, 12 years on iRacing, Mike, and it took you that long to finally use brake bias in general as like the main one that you really want a button map to, and you took so many years to do it.
I never touched brake bias for the first 7 years of my iRacing.
All right, somebody take the next one. Something went weird with my script.
I got it. I was looking into this one. So this is Simulator Garage. They're Blue 92 Plus pedals. They're obviously, it looks like it's a Turkish company. They got a load cell pedal. It's fully adjustable. The pedals, the hardness, and the angle can all be adjusted. Distance, I guess, positions. Um, it's a highly sensitive with a 16-bit load cell and a 12-bit data transfer for each pedal. It's a 200 kilogram load cell, and
Dollars.
sorry,
$592.
yeah. So it's just under $600 there for in American. I guess if you translate the $14,000 Turkish dollar.
Yeah, if you pay attention to the Instagram video, you can see where they've got some extra, basically rubber cylinders for making adjustments on them as well. Kind of like the brake kit that you used to have to order on the old V3 pedals.
I really like the design. I like the color scheme for them and stuff. They're a simple looking load cell design. Like they're not any extra parts that aren't needed. It's kind of just basically cut machine metal, and it's as streamlined as they could possibly get it.
You're right. It's a very clean look, and yeah, it's got different color elastomers, so you can change the stiffness. There's different springs for the throttle as well. Um, the like the wheel plate or the mounting plate is just a very shiny black, simple. Like Greg said, it's kind of elegant and straightforward. I kind of like it. Now, Mackenzie, you were asking us about these crazy Chinese knockoff pedals you found this week, and I don't think anybody responded to you about that, but these look so much better than those. I can't hear you.
I think he's muted.
Yeah, my mic was muted. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, so I actually saw something on Facebook. Someone was asking about the Huskenfeld Sprints, and then a couple people actually recommended those, saying they're pretty much the same quality at like half the price. So I just thought I'd ask if anyone knew anything about them. But yeah, there are some Chinese. I don't know where they're from or anything, or if they're actually any good. I didn't actually really do any research on them, but yeah, I was just looking at these ones, and I don't think this company actually ships to Canada, so I wouldn't be able to get these anyways.
The there's a 2 year warranty too, so it's good that they have a warranty on these at least for 2 years. I mean, it's nothing compared to some of the ones that we've seen with lifetime warranties or whatever, but this is at least there's something there to protect you.
Well, Greg, it's funny you bring up the number 2 because what do we have next? Paint Builder 2. And actually, Justin, why don't you take the topic, actually?
Yeah, Trading Paints put a tweet out saying some of us have already found it, but today Steve, Sean, and I are very proud to unveil Paint Builder 2 for Trading Paints Pro members. Sean and Steve have been working on this program for more than 2 years, and now here it is.
Okay.
So has
I
anybody tried
can't
it
see
out?
it. I'm not a pro.
So basically, they're giving you the instead of you going and having a third party program, they're creating their own party program to be used to do your paints in trading paints, right?
It's in browser painting. Right.
So you don't have to spend money on you're spending money on the membership to have it for the pro thing, but you don't have to buy go and find a free program and try and adapt it, or anybody that has Photoshop or Paint Pro or things like that.
And it's not the only thing that comes with Pro. Initially, you had to have it to be able to use spec maps, but they changed that. But it allows you to upload a separate paint for night and day paints and quite a few other things.
That's the key with the pro membership. And I actually signed up the first year that they had it out, and then I didn't. But what I liked about it was the day and night paints. So as I went through the NIS season, if it was a night race, I would run a inverse paint, and then a day I would run my regular paint. And it was kind of neat because it was automated and automatic. The other neat thing is if you're a pro, you can have a specific paint for a specific league. And so all the leagues that you're joined to, you can go and mark a paint to be with that league.
I really, really,
Majors.
yeah, I really like this idea because what it does is it, like, when I'm talking to Bobby about a paint problem, I run a different program than Bobby, and trying to figure out between the two different programs how to make it work in, to get it to work in iRacing the way that they want it to work on the template. It is sometimes, you got to figure out trial and error with some things. And it's been figured out a lot now because over time. But with this, if they're creating their own program, they could kind of make it. I don't want to. I guess you could call it idiot proof, but at least proof where you're not. Whatever you're putting into that, it can work into the sim.
Mhm. I think they're adding this paint builder too as part of the membership, and it's just more value for the pro members. You know, I don't really run leagues anymore, and I kind of gave up on the whole having multiple paints. So I haven't really felt the need to sign up for it. But man, if you do those things, it's worth the money. It's cool.
All right, it's too bad Brian's not here because I didn't get a chance to review this VR feature. But we've got a brand new Pico 4, and we've got a review for it. So go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I parts of this as well. The Pico 4 all-in-one VR headset, 128 gig, is available on Amazon, and $600. And as far as the review, I mean, Carl Gosling goes through it, in typical, Carl fashion. Um, he says 6 months on what's changed, and he compares it to the previous one, and what are the differences, and he liked the differences, but he's always a picky guy, and he tells it how it is. I think he said it has a much wider sweet spot, the spot where your eyeball looks at, it's a much wider.
It's another wireless one, as you can tell, just taking a glance. I just don't know if I want to go wireless with for racing.
And he has the old one and the new one there, and he's got them one in each hand, and he's kind of comparing and that kind of thing. So you know, with all the different VR headsets out, I mean, these are both the videos on this week's show are must watch. The Pico 4 and then the Quest 3. I don't know enough about VR to tell you, specifics.
All right, on this next topic, this is a perfect example of the face you see every time Greg talks to his wife about iRacing.
I really hope not. I really, really, really hope not. I wanted to avoid this one completely because I don't. The comment section's a little inappropriate. But it's kind of one of the most basic of ideas for a sim rig. It looks like they took a bookshelf and sat her in it and moved a shelf in front of her. I guess that's how I would describe it.
There's a
Yeah, they
seat
laid the
too.
bookshelf down.
Yeah, so yeah, you're right. There is a seat. So yeah, I forgot the seat and the wheel.
But all I notice is the facial expression.
Now, the girlfriend sitting in the seat, yeah, she doesn't look like she's entirely thrilled to be there.
This is the face that we all were giving when Mike was trying to name last week's show.
Anyway, Sim Racing Point on Instagram is where I found that one. They're always a good follow for some funny sim racing related humor.
All right, Mackenzie, what about the Logitech G Racing adapter?
Yeah, Boosted Media put out a video here. Video just paused on me. There we go. So it's a Logitech G Racing adapter that opens new possibilities to cross-platform components. So I didn't actually get to watch this video, but just by watching it quickly here, if I'm right, I think it makes the Logitech what am I saying here? Wow.
Well, all Logitech equipment can be mixed and matched with this adapter. That's what it is. It's just a small hub to plug in a gear shift, to plug in a Logitech gear shift, a Logitech pedals from maybe a G27 or a G25 or a G920 or the new direct drive Logitech.
I
You
feel
can match anything.
I feel like this was needed because of the newer ones compared to the old ones. Because I think the old ones worked really well together. It's when the new ones came in, they wouldn't work together, right?
Well, on the old G27, the gear shift had an old 9-pin serial
Yeah,
adapter connection. It was not USB at all.
but it went in the back of the wheel, didn't it?
I went in the back of the wheel, and I kept that shifter when I got my direct drive for a while until it just completely died. Um, and
How'd you plug it in?
there was a Ricmotech had an adapter
Yeah,
that would just switch it over to USB.
that had to be one of Rick Wittek's probably one of the more popular things that he sold at the time.
Yeah,
So
my
now you can buy this instead and do the same thing.
yeah, I have the Logitech G29 with the Logitech shifter, and it's the same way as that. It plugs right into the wheel. So if I upgraded to a direct drive wheel and wanted to keep using those, then I'd need this adapter then.
Right.
Yeah, and
Or like
while
what
you
David
can,
got.
but while you can keep using it, does yours have the buttons on it? Is it the 27 or the 29 that had the buttons on the shifter?
20, like the 27 was the one that had all the big button pad on it from back in the day.
It actually had an arrow, almost a D-pad on it. And
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, that was the 27. The 25 was the just the uh, people like the 25 because it had the sequential and the H pattern on it, whereas the 27 didn't, and the 27 had the buttons.
Yeah, I have just like the Logitech shifter that's just an H pattern with no buttons on it or anything.
Yeah, that was the next generation when they brought the other ones out. They never brought another shifter out when they brought the direct drive. They just brought the direct drive to add with that shifter, right? They didn't change the shifter.
No, I don't think so. I think they still have the same shifter.
Well, let's shift to the next topic, Mike. How about a Gomez GLX Pro review?
Yeah, again, Carl Gosling has been very busy, and he went over this wheel. This is the one without a display, and he liked it. I mean, it's very functional. It does what it's supposed to do. I think he gave the impression that it may be overpriced for what it is. Yeah. But functional, very functional. You know, he talked about the 4-pin USB to the 4-pin cable you have to use with this kind of wheel, the drawbacks of that, you know, how you would have to use the cable and so forth. I don't know if I like the look of it. I mean, it's got this carbon fiber, you know, background and then bright yellow around the knobs. And I just think it clashes a little bit, and then kind of orange and black, you know, for the covers of the buttons. Color scheme is a little off for me. I don't know.
Or next, we've got a button box that's featured, and it's from Precision Sim Engineering, and it's a button box that has SimHub integration as well as live feedback with two 7-way funky switches.
What a beauty. Really low profile too. Um, Now I checked the website at Precision Sim Engineering to get a price. It's not listed yet. This is like a brand new product. They're just showing off on Instagram apparently.
So nice.
Yeah, it's a
Is-
single unit, they say.
What does SimHub integration mean?
It works with the SimHub app.
App is a Windows app you can install in Windows called SimHub, and I use it to run my butt kicker as well as my wind simulation.
Same. I use it for the WinSim too.
It's a neat design. I almost think it could be a little bit tough with the buttons being so compact and close together, especially if you're working in VR.
It's like a keyboard.
Almost, yeah. Uh, that's why I'm really partial to the something kind of like the DSD, where you have toggles and buttons and knobs. Oh my!
SimHub software also
Title idea.
programs the lighting for my Formula wheel as well. Like I can get a profile from the internet from somebody and put it in SimHub, and now my wheel's all programmed. Like it'll start flashing blue when the leader comes up on me and stuff.
Oh, is there anything in here saying that it's illuminated at all? Or is it just the blood button? It probably doesn't have color.
Yeah, it doesn't show.
It'd be cool if those buttons were kind of like a more of like a clearer color where it would let some light through, or at least the color sticker part.
What's the other button box where it has the programmable square buttons that do light up?
That's basically
What's the
Stream
name of
Deck,
that?
right?
Stream Deck, right? This is like a Stream Deck knockoff.
Yeah, Stream Deck it lets you put the image in there too, right? So it's whatever you program the image. That'd be a thumbnail.
Yeah. So this,
Yeah, these look like stickers.
yeah, Stream Deck is literally actually tiny little monitors on each little button, whereas this is just buttons.
But they've got that square colored look, and it looks like it's stickers on it. Yeah, so pretty cool. More to come on that one. We don't have a price.
All right. Next up, Justin, we've got some tips on naming your own paints.
Yeah, Drew Adamson shows you in Twitter to post on how to name your paint file and use trading paints for others to see your paints or send directly to your friends. Maybe you guys can enlighten me on this. I haven't painted a car yet, so.
Well, we don't need to, I guess, read off every single item, because if you really want to look into this, just go to our website and look at the show notes and you can see each one. But this is basically you have to go into your documents folder and then iRacing and then paints. And then for every car, there's a folder. And if you look in there, if especially if you have trade and paints working, when it downloads all the files it needs for each person that's done a trading paint. Well, the main reason I need this info is when I'm editing my paints, I need to name them correctly, drop them in the folder so it will so that the iRacing UI will update and show me the adjustments that I've made. So I look at basically the top option for car number, and then I look at the spec map option, and I save the file with that and my username number, and then drop it in the right folder, and boom, it updates it, and I can see what changes I've made when I'm painting a car.
Paint the TGA, and then you save it as car underscore 99557, which is my ID dot. So once you name it that, you drop it, and then you can see it.
Now, here's another thing that I found is a good thing to have if you're using the Trading Paints app. This is just a good setting to always have on it. In the advanced part on your Trading Paints thing, when it comes up, check off clean up download files from from iRacing when you exit, and then clean up drivers exiting or existing paint files before fetching new ones. And then if you're doing what David said, when you're painting a car, probably the best idea is to turn Trading Paints off at that time so it doesn't update anything. But for the most part, turn those on so your files aren't drastically huge either. Because if every time you race with somebody, it gets put into that file, and then if you don't delete it from that file, it just sits in there, and you just have more and more files accumulate on iRacing.
Yeah, it'll build up. If you race the same driver, it'll overwrite the file in that case. But for every time you race a new driver, their file will just stay in the folder, and it will begin to pile up. I've just noticed there's a recent trading paints option, and now you can pre-download the paints. I've never seen that before because I was looking at those.
Part of how the beauty of using Trading Paints, even as a free version, is when you upload a paint, it renames it appropriately. So others download it downloads it as the right name into the right folder. So it doesn't really matter what you name it when you go to upload it to Trading Paints. It does matter if you're trying to preview your paint locally, like David was saying, dropping it in a local folder.
Or if you're wanting to send it to friends individually, or some leagues require you update your paints into a folder if they have a broadcaster who has to pre-approve all the paints to make sure something not appropriate is not in there.
I've had people ask, how do you know your customer ID number? I've always found it by the old website. If you go to your profile page and you look at the number in the URL, that's the ID number.
They,
It'll literally show their number as well.
And David, that's how you put the caution tape paint on certain drivers you wanted to avoid. So you went and figured out what their number was, right? And then you would just dump that paint in that folder named as that number?
Yep, I don't have to do that anymore, but yeah, that's what I used to do.
also, just so everyone remembers too, and we might know this, but a service like Trading Paints is there for the community. They don't have to be able to do this. We never really, there was no need, or not no need. There was no, they did. iRacing could have just stayed without having custom paint jobs, and because having Trading Paints, it's allowed us to be able to race other people with custom paints and see it. So it's nice to have that. So don't abuse the paint system as well.
And that's a good reason, Greg, to buy a pro membership. Support these guys because they are doing us all such a great service, insulating iRacing and us from potential lawsuits from potential real companies that have their paints on these cars that maybe they don't want to. All right, let's jump to final results. NIS. And what did we get? I got Friday. I started P28 in Sonoma, and I finished P10. And I think that was 3 top 10s for me. I think it was a 4th, a 5th, and a 10th. So, man, I mean, I can't believe I'm doing so good at Sonoma recently, but it's been real nice. And that's it. Nobody else ran.
I can't remember. I was gone.
No, you raced it.
I ran Friday night, didn't I?
You ran with me. I crashed out into the barriers off of turn 3 to turn 4 there. Nosed it in the barrier and broke every single piece of the front end of the car I could possibly find on it.
I was running at mid pack around 16th or 17th. I was a lap down, and I was letting a lap car by. Coming, I can't remember. It was one of the hard right-hander turns, not the one at the top of the hill, but the one after the top of the hill. And the guy that was lapping me just decided that he needed the whole track while he was lapping me, and just came across my nose and wrecked us both. Then he wrecked me on and then he spun around and speared me in the door. And yeah, he did get protested, and I already got the email back saying he at least got a warning letter. So I ended up finishing P21 after that. I thought it was going to be a nice, clean race. I was giving him room. I was all the way on the curb, and he just came over, and he just kept coming over like I wasn't there.
That was top split too, I think, if anything.
Yeah, it was top split.
Yeah, so you guys were in the same split, and then I think Donnie was running as well. I don't know where he finished. And not sure about Tom either. And it's an off week. Can you believe it? I feel so out of place this week. Like I said, I went to practice Tuesday night. I'm like, what's going on? But I did run some other official racing. I ran my first FIA F4 since they renamed it at Virginia International Raceway. Qualified 12th out of 21. I got up to P9 on lap 1, but got wrecked out by lap 7, D and F. I went off on my own. Then I ran a Dallara Dash at Charlotte, wrecked out before the green flag from behind. David, IMSA, 3 P3s in a row, that's an average of P3 we learned.
Yeah, math. That's Greg's awesome Canadian math that he came up with over there. Yeah.
Oh, Canada.
It wasn't all speed. There's this Watkins Glen is tight with the GT3s and these GTPs on there, and a lot of guys are just screwed up and running over GT3s. And then there's some places where particularly in the S's, the GT3s, some of them think that you have to sit behind them in the entire S's, and that's just unreasonable, because that's losing 5 to 6 or 7 seconds on a lap. So in the S's, they're just going to have to pick one side or the other to go down and give up a little bit of time, so you get in a little time. But I was lucky enough to always kind of get around them on the outside when they were taking one of the apexes, but a couple of guys would go in and they would come down and just go ahead and close the door on them. I did have one guy run me off the track once, but I managed to get a slow down instead of taking any damage or anything. But hopefully things go well for us, and we can really end this dive bomb that's been going on the last 3 weeks.
All right. And that's it. That's all we have. I can't believe we don't have any results, but it is an off week. So happy Father's Day. Let's jump into final thoughts. David Hall.
So I said I was going to Nashville for a concert, and I sent you some group pictures. It was really awesome. I got to do the VIP stuff, so I got to hang out, got to visit with the band, get the picture. I got a signed poster. And if you like rock/metal music of any kind, I have to endorse these guys. Halocene is the name of the band. Check them out. Boost their numbers even more. They're really big on Twitch and YouTube, and this venue was really cool. What was really neat was Addie, the lead singer. they had just been on tour up in the Northeast where all the air quality was going down and it affected her voice. And that's legit. I know that my voice has trouble when they burn fields out here
Canada's on fire.
during harvest season. It's basically blame Canada, right? But it's a real thing. But what was kind of neat about the experience is she kind of, some performers, if their voice was basically gone or fried, could just leave the stage and say, "Hey, I can't do this." She stuck it out and let one of their guest performers kind of carry the weight some, and she paced herself and could sing some. And she also actually literally just kind of opened up and basically cried on the entire audience's shoulders that was the first time her voice had gone on stage. And so even though we didn't get to hear the normal set list, in some ways the fact that she treated the whole audience as a friend was was nice. So she's definitely not a diva. She's a very real person, and that was a unique experience that most of the rest of the tour probably won't get. And it was also neat. I got to hang out with Brad and literally just stand on the stage and have a conversation afterwards. So they're very humble. They're not stuck up, and it's kind of like going to an IMSA race versus a NASCAR race. The IMSA race, you can just go hang out with the drivers and just carry on a conversation with them. And Halcyon was the same way, and so it was a great experience.
Would you say her voice was burnt out, David?
Sounds like fun. All right, Greg Hectus, final thoughts.
I'm going to hell for that comment. Anyways, I just it was nice to get into a road race with David there the other night. I didn't know if we'd actually make the same split with each other, but it was nice to get in there and race the Caddy. I only had a couple laps on it before I got in, but I think I'm gonna enjoy that car. And we'll probably do some more racing this weekend. On the off week, it's tough always on Father's Day weekend. There's always something going on, but I wish David and Tom good luck in their race on the weekend, and hopefully they can bring back a 6 hours at the Glen.
All right, very good. Justin Pearson, final thoughts.
Yeah, not much. I just got back from Vegas. Never been that far west before. I was kind of near your area, Mike. And but I was kind of, short little story. I was kind of sad and disappointed. I woke up early Friday morning. I was texting you guys, and I woke up early before my wife, and I wanted to see if there's any sim racing stuff in Vegas, like any lounges or anything like that. And I Googled, and Sim Coaches was a mile and a half away where I was staying. So I got the info from Donnie, and I was going to set up a time with Lawrence, and I walked 100 yards out in the casino, and I rolled my ankle, sprained it, swelled up real bad. And I was like, fuck. I was like, shoot. And so I went out. Finally, took about half a day to get moving, and I was like, okay, I was thinking Sim Coaches was a retail store, and I take an Uber out there, and the Uber drops me off in the middle of warehouses. And so I learned that it wasn't a retail store, so I went back to the hotel. So that was my short little embarrassing story. So,
Yeah, you have to get ahead of Lawrence ahead of time, and he'll take you on a tour of the warehouse.
yeah, I learned real quick. So, but yeah, Vegas was fun but expensive. So,
Money trap. Mackenzie Stevens, final thought.
Yeah, I don't have much either. I was away all last week for work, so didn't get to run it all. But now with season 3, I finally got my oval license up to A class, so I'm excited to be able to run some A opens and practice for NIS every week.
All right, well, welcome back. My final thoughts, yeah, rare NASCAR off week. I'm getting stuff done. This morning, I was looking at my painting, and I was telling you guys, boy, I got to motivate and hang that thing on the wall. I finally found 2 studs and hung it. And it looks great. So I'm happy to get that done. I did some cleaning around the house. Then my wife ended up with a flat tire, and I had to fix her car. And so I haven't been busy racing, but it's been a nice off week. ready to get back to it. Looking at the point in IS Open, I'm still leading Tom Dreiling, my teammate, by 35 points, leaving over Pedro Palladino by about 60 some points. So I don't know if I can hold it. Tom is fast. He's got more iRating than I do. He makes more points usually than I do. But he's had a couple tough weeks and I haven't. So knock on wood, man. I'm going to fight him down to the end, and may the best man win. And with that, hey, we'll see you on the track later.